Let's discuss the story of the wrongful conviction of Maria Shepered and how the criminal justice system failed her, and by doing so, changed her life forever. Maria Shepered married her husband Ashley and shortly after began growing their family together. Ashley brought into their marriage a stepdaughter from Maria, Cassandra, and together they had 2 more children with a 3rd child on the way when Maria was 21. The relationship between Cassandra's biological mother and Maria was not perfect, and many times through the custody battle between the families, Cassandra's biological mother reported allegations of abuse to the police, all which were utterly untrue and out of spite. On April 9th, 1991, Cassandra was feeling very ill after seeing the 3.5-year-old having episodes of her eyes rolling back and excessive vomiting as well as losing consciousness. Their parents called 911 and rushed her to the hospital to get her help. They had no idea Cassandra had been suffering grand mal seizures, as they are so difficult to detect in such a young child. At the hospital in Brampton, Ontario, the city they lived in, she was doing poorly and driven to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto for further treatment. Here, she would suffer a second grand mal seizure. This one she would never come out of. On April 11, 1991, Cassandra was pronounced dead, and Dr. Charles Smith, a pediatric forensic pathologist, would provide Cassandra's accused cause of death: murder, by no other than Cassandra's stepmother, Maria Shepered. Dr. Charles Smith disclosed Cassandra's cause of death involving several blows to the head while leaving a watch-shaped mark under her scalp, and her stepmother Maria was at fault for the crime. With no previous criminal offenses or record, Maria was appalled at the accusation. However, complied with authorities and was brought to the police station for questioning. During questioning, pregnant Maria was provided with 1 can of Coke and brutal police interrogation. Maria maintained her innocence for much of the interrogation. However, the longer the interrogation lasted, the more impatient the police became. They began threatening her with polygraph tests, saying that the press headlines would soon read "Stepmother Kills Stepdaughter," and that her children would be taken away from her. Maria stated one of the police officers even told her that he had felt like hitting his own kids with a baseball bat to try and get her to agree. Her own lawyer even told her that she had little chance due to the so-called evidence from Dr. Smith and she should take the plea bargain. Finally, after hours and hours of interrogation and believing her husband Ashley had been waiting for her in the waiting room, all this time through word of interrogators, in addition to the fear of her children being taken away from her, Maria falsely confessed to the crime. As soon as she confessed, the interrogation stopped, and the police informed her that she would be retrieving her husband from home to make her confess to his face. They had lied. He was not in the interrogating room or the waiting room. After bringing Ashley into the room, through tears, she falsely admitted to her husband she had killed their daughter. She signed the plea bargain given to her by authorities. She had little choice. It was either plead guilty or never see her children again. By signing this plea, Maria was provided a sentence at a lower security prison in order to be able to hug and touch her family during visitation, and in addition a chance to a shorter sentence. It was October 22, 1992 that Maria entered the courtroom early to officially plead guilty to the crime. She arrived early on this day to avoid her mother hearing the words come out of her mouth. Maria Shepered was then convicted of manslaughter. She was now pregnant with her 4th child. She would receive a sentence of 2 years less a day at a low-security facility in order to continue to see those children. In prison, Maria was told not to stay there because of what she had been accused of doing, but because of killing her husband. But prison inmates were well aware of who she was and what she was accused of, so she was at high risk. Maria was given the option to be put in protective custody. However, this would remove her ability to see and hug her children, so she opted to stay in general population and protect herself there, so she could continue to hold the ones she loved. She was in danger and was attacked on multiple occasions, as those labeled as baby killers were treated horrifically in prisons, especially women's prisons. The guards were no aid to her, as they saw these brawls as forms of entertainment. On her first attempt at parole, Maria was denied, as she was told she cried too much during her time spent in her cell. However, her second attempt for parole was granted, and she was moved to a halfway house as a result. 5 months into her prison sentence on March 21st, 1993, at this halfway house, Maria gave birth to her fourth child. Maria recollects little, if nothing, of the birth of her son, and she has great feelings of regret and shame due to this. Her newborn child was taken from her a mere 3 hours after his birth. This only added to the mountain of emotions that she was experiencing at the time. On June 21st, 1993, Maria was finally released from prison and began the journey of reintegrating herself into society. She was hired as a receptionist at her defense counsel's office, a position that was meant to last 2 weeks originally but ended up being extended to 5 years. She then began studying to be a paralegal with their blessing. During this time, she received a notice regarding the man who ruined her life, Charles Smith. In 2005, there was an investigation into him by the Ontario Coroner's Office due to a wide array of complaints to his work. It was found that Dr. Charles Smith was not a licensed forensic pathologist and in reality just had a pathology license. Through this finding, there were 12 other questionable accusations leading to the convictions through the mishandlings of autopsies and misdiagnoses of causes of death thereby. This public inquiry was officially completed in 2007 by the Ontario Court of Appeals Judge Stephen Gouge, and Charles Smith was found guilty on all accounts. He was then stripped of his license and fined a measly $3,000 for the damages he had done, a disgraceful amount in comparison to the damage he had done to so many families and lives today. He continues to walk a free man. The Association in Defense of the Wrongfully Convicted, otherwise known as AIDWIC, and now under the name of Innocence Canada, reached out to Maria after these events, and she inquired about opening her case again. Innocence Canada's James Lockyer reviewed her case alongside 3 other experts by the names of Dr. Simon Davis, Dr. Ramsey, 2 forensic neuropathologists, and finally Dr. Patrick Barnes, a forensic radiologist. These 4 men concluded and agreed that Dr. Smith misattributed Cassandra's death to homicide, when in reality the cause of her death was due to a pre-existing genetic condition of grand mal seizures, events her biological mother and grandmother also suffered from that were never examined in the original case. The 4 experts also concluded that Charles Smith's opinions were extremely unreliable and, at the least, pseudoscientific. Maria Shepered's name was finally cleared, and she was Innocence Canada's 21st official person to have her name cleared with their assistance. Now, let's rewind for a moment. Where did all these things go wrong in Maria's case to result in her wrongful conviction? Well, there are 4 attributes that contributed. The first was that of the contribution of Dr. Charles Smith and his falsification of qualifications and therefore also evidence. Not only did Charles Smith's false qualifications result in the misdiagnosis of Cassandra's death, but also in the misdirection of police work that could have been saved from Maria from her gruesome time in prison. This also leads to the second reason. The second reason contributing to Maria's wrongful conviction was that of police tactics and misconduct. The police took Charles Smith's word higher than they should have, as he was seen as a godlike man in the world of medicine and forensic pathology. This led to tunnel vision directed at Maria Shepered and her following conviction for a crime that never even occurred. In addition to this, many of the police interrogation techniques used on Maria were flat-out misconduct. The 2 specifically that were of using lies to manipulate Maria to give a false confession, but also using coercive police techniques to get her to agree to a plea bargain. This brings us to our third contributor, the plea bargain. Maria was provided with a sentence bargain, meaning the plea she was given was related to the sentencing of her case. She was told that if she pled guilty, she would be provided with a lesser sentence in a lower security prison in order to continue to see her children. If she chose against this option, she would be sent to a heavy security prison in Kingston and unable to see or touch her children at all. It was her family or her soul, and she sold it to the devil. The fourth and final reason Maria was wrongfully convicted is specifically related to the crime she was charged for, being a woman. Maria was seen by Charles Smith as the stereotype of the dangerous mother. As he believed he was the protector of all children, he used normative crime frameworks to come to the conclusion as a stepmother, she was the most likely to commit the crime. These types of false accusations and dirty thinking towards mothers and the death of children were explained and investigated during the Gouge Inquiry of 2007 involving Charles Smith. In order to prevent wrongful convictions such as Maria's in the future, we must refine and better our criminal justice system. We can do this in interrogation rooms by recording interviews, properly verifying employees' credentials, full transparency of evidence, reduced tunnel vision in police and other areas of the law, providing fair and equal representation legally to all individuals without personal biases. Such as in this case, Maria's first lawyer was just taking Charles Smith's word as a whole and honest truth was the incorrect thing to do. By taking steps in the right direction, we can prevent future wrongful convictions and make sure innocent people like Maria don't end up behind bars for crimes that they did not do, or in this case, never even occurred. As for Maria, she became a proud licensed paralegal on October 28, 2016, and has since opened her own practice named Shepered Advocacy and Litigation in order to help those in tough situations such as hers. In addition, Maria is now the co-director of Innocence Canada, the same organization that saved her life so many years ago. Her family? They're together and well. Although they went through a lot during Maria's time of wrongful conviction, her therapy from 1991 to 2017 provided her with much assistance in helping herself and her family grow stronger than ever. In her spare time, Maria has found a love for the outdoors, especially with gardening, and she takes no time for granted since leaving jail on her parole and finally on her release. She is still a proud Canadian and believes comparatively that our nation has the best judicial system in the whole world. And Maria will also always be grateful for her mother, father, and family deciding to immigrate here for all of her past, current, and future opportunities here. Thank you for listening, and thanks for a great semester.